Okay, so we are now at Unit 12 about data manipulation commands. So in our lecture, you will see there the commands that I have already showed you on our previous lectures. However, this commands actually is uh, an example using MySQL. Okay, so basically, this commands, as you notice, has some difference with the commands that we use on our earlier example. Um, I just I just give this out as an example so that you could actually see the differences if we use another database vendor. So in this example, we have a create table syntax. Notice that in this particular example, instead of using identity for MySQL, will be using auto increment, auto underscore increment, which has the same effect of identity 11. Okay. And then we have, or we can choose to use a bar chart with no defined size. And we also have a data type called text. Whereas for SQL Server, we do not have text, but we could make use of what we call varchar max, which is the maximum allowable space for a varchar column. Okay. All the other examples, however, will be using my MS SQL Server, so we will not have any issues with that. Okay. In these examples that is stated in our lecture, we did not make use of a prefix, but I advise you, if you are to execute this sample, it is better if you try to rename the table. Okay. So for example, instead of using SQL salesperson, you could make use of TBL underscore salesperson so that you could execute the command on your own without actually just um, relying on the lecture alone. Okay, so that would be better. Now, we will begin with creating our table for this example. Okay, so SQL salesperson, which we will be renaming into our own table. So first, make sure that your SQL Fiddle is ready. So we have to make sure that SQL Fiddle is ready. So remove all the commands that you have in there so that we could use a clean and blank slate. Okay, so let us try to create our table. Okay, format it so that it will be clear to read. Okay, I'll make this one all small cap. Okay, then we have the following columns. Salesperson, which is an identity. Okay, so we do not need to provide the value for this one. Take note, we will not have a primary key here, but you could actually place or input the keyword primary key. So the salesperson ID will become our primary key. We have full name, which is varchar, sales last year, which is money, city, which is and varchar, and then we have row GUID, which has data type of unique identifier. Basically, what this does is it will make a combination of random letters and number that will serve as a unique string or unique identifier string for our table. So instead of using salesperson ID as your primary key, you could use GUID, which has a unique identifier. However, this is not recommended because when connecting multiple rows to multiple tables, the larger the table gets, the slower your query will become. So it's better if you will actually just use um, an int as your primary key and then connecting it to foreign key of another table. But this is done in order for us to make use of the command unique identifier or the description unique identifier. So after doing this one, we will build our schema. Okay, so let us check. So there we have our table. Next. So inserting single row using SQL insert into, we already have tackled about this example. Okay. So in this example, we are declaring all the required columns as well as defining the value that will go into that particular column. In this example, we have the keyword DBO dot before the table name. So actually, you do not need to input the word DBO. It just pertains to the database object or the database owner. So basically, the schema to which your table belongs to. So you do not need to input that particular command. Okay, so we change the name. Next, the row GUID for the value. Notice, okay, we are making our unique identifier, okay, for this particular data. Okay, and then do not forget the semicolon. So when inserting using a single value, you need to identify the column, okay, arrange in proper order, as well as the value that will go to that particular column arranged into proper order also. Take note, we have sales last year here, which will have a value of null. Actually, we could just remove this one and also remove the column of sales last year here. Just need to have a match of the number of columns together with the proper value. Okay. Notice we didn't also specify the salesperson ID here. I have already given the reason for that one. The reason is that because we have set an identity value, okay, although it states here that the column should not be null, we do not need to specify column salesperson ID because the value will come from the identity 11 specification. Okay. Also, you do not you can switch around the columns and they do not have to be in order. Okay. Also, some of the columns, you do not need to specify some of the columns if the description of that column is null. Okay, just like what we did here. However, it is better if you specify the proper order of the column so that you will not be confused on which is which. Because for this example, you might get confused that the full name might become Midland and the city might become George Hitson. Okay. So after executing this one, we need to have an output just like this one. Okay. So we run our SQL. Okay. Insert. Okay. So we have executed our command. If we are to display the command, okay, let us execute it again. Okay, so we have here following data. Okay. It's on number two because we executed it again. I forgot to add the select statement. Next, next. What if we want to insert multiple values using one insert command? So in this example, we will be inserting multiple values inside our table. Okay. So in order for us to do that, we will define the columns. Again, we will just copy the insert into statement, insert into table name, and then the columns that you want. But this time, instead of using multiple values, what we do is just state the value, the first value, and then separate it by open close parenthesis and then place a comma. So in this example, we have Ralph Gitter and Mike Orange all inserted into one statement. Okay. So when we run this example, we now have three data. What if we want to place George Hitson in one particular command? So we will just do this example. Okay. Do not forget CP first. Okay. Then remove the first insert statement. Run the statement again. Okay. We encountered incorrect syntax. Okay. Forgot comma. Okay. What if we want to include this last year? For example, some will have sales, some 1,500. Then we have null. Then we have 5,689.55. Okay. Look at it again. Okay. Considerations. Data type consideration. Padding. Keep in mind that when inserting data into columns whose data type is char, varchar, or bar binary, the padding or truncation of data depends upon the set ANSI padding setting. Inserting the value Chris into a field defined as char 10 results in a value padded with 6 additional spaces. As I have said, the reason behind it is that because char, when you use char, it is a fixed data format wherein the size will remain the same no matter how many characters you input into your column. So the value inserted will be Chris and then blank space. The padding rule can be confusing when using insert into. So keep that in mind. Error handling. You can handle errors when executing an insert into statement using try-catch construct. There are several common reasons an insert statement may fail. Some of the reasons are unique key violation caused by a duplicate key value, primary key violation, uh, already has a row with the same primary key, foreign key violation, trying to insert a row into a child table yet the parent doesn't exist, and data type conversion when you are trying to insert a row wherein the value has a different data type. In these cases, the statement execution stops and the insert statement generates an error. No rows are inserted into the table, even rows. Okay. This all or nothing behavior can be modified for arithmetic errors. Consider a divide by zero error. So for example, insert into my numbers x, y. We have the following value. It will generate an error if set arith abort is set to on. Okay, so this is a command in MS SQL. In this case, the inserted is stop, no rows are inserted, and an error is thrown. However, if set arith abort is set to off and ANSI warnings are off, then the same statement will successfully complete. Where there is a mathematical error, the result is replaced with null. So let us try to do that. So we are using decimal and int. So let us copy the examples first, separate notepad because we might be using that later. Okay. Table name, okay. Let us see this code. Okay. Check. We have XY. And let us try to do this example. Colon and then we need to display the value. Okay. Divide by zero encountered. Okay, notice that we encountered an error on the first insert statement, so that will not push through. It will not be inserted, and then we will not uh, we will not be able to execute the next command, which is a select statement. So in order for us to avoid this, we must set the arithmetic error to off and set as well as the warnings to off by using set arith abort off and set ANSI warnings off. Okay, and run. Okay, divide by 0. Still we are to that error. Okay, I'm sorry. The set arith abort and set ANSI warnings does not have semicolon. So when you run our command, so XY, first one is an error. So the value for X will be null, but it will continue to process the other insert statement. Okay, so we have the same output. When adding rows to tables, it is important to understand there are some columns requiring special handling. Okay, insert, select, and unique identifiers. When adding data to a column declared with a unique identifier type, use the new ID function to generate a globally unique value. So, for example, okay, we will go back again to our sample earlier. Okay, we'll check. Then we will use the new ID function. So instead of typing our row GUID, the new ID function will generate the unique ID for us. Okay, schema, then run our SQL. Valid object. Okay, can run. Let us try to refresh our SQL Fidel. Okay, okay. Just make sure that under your schema, you can check your table so that we can avoid any error. Okay. Okay, guys, earlier I was having trouble creating the schema. So if that happens to you, just refresh SQL Fiddle or go to a new tab and then just try to make sure that under the schema browser you can check if you already have the table. Otherwise, you will encounter the same error. So going back, so we made use of the function new ID to generate an automatic row GUID for our column. So once executed, it will display this particular value. Anyway, please be reminded that the new ID will always be unique. When you execute it again, it will show with a different value. So all of us, once we execute the new ID, we will not have the same values every execution. So do not be confused with that. It will generate random values every time it is executed. Identity column property. A new value is generated for the column whenever a row is inserted into a table with an identity column property. Because of this, since our table or table salesperson, that salesperson ID is an identity column, we don't specify it in our insert statement. Every time a row is added, the identity value is incremented by 1. If you try to insert your own value, you'll throw an error. So, for example, okay, identity insert is set to off. Cannot insert explicit value for identity column. Okay. To get around this, you can set identity insert on. So when you do this one, instead of identity generating a unique value, you can set your own value for that one. However, if in our example, we have set the salesperson ID as a primary key. Okay, if that particular value is repeated, okay, if that particular value is repeated, it will generate another error because we can only have one unique primary key. Okay, default values and other. The DBMS automatically provides values for columns if it is an identity column, a default value is specified, the column is nullable or it can be null, or the column is commutable or calculation is used. Okay. If a value isn't provided by the statement and the engine is unable to provide a value, the row cannot be inserted. This typically happens when a value is missing and the column is not null. Inserting data from other tables. Okay. So in this example, we are going to insert a table, a value to salesperson using a select statement from another table. Okay. So please bear with me as this example is quite confusing. So I think it would be better if I will make a new example. But in this example, let me explain what is happening. In order for us to insert into a table, we use the keyword insert into table name. And then if you want specific columns to be inserted, you identify that particular column. Okay. Now in this example, instead of specifying values for the column, what we did is to generate a select statement. Okay, using two tables, a table for a person and a table from the salesperson. Okay, and then it will get all the names having sales which is greater than 1 million. Okay, so that is what is happening here. Okay, so if we want to do this example, we need to create the table. Let's say, for example, so we'll make our own sample. Okay, so we have salesperson. So in this salesperson, we have three. We have George, Ralph, and Mike. Okay, I will display value, and then we will create another table for table name. Have name ID, and then have name, have city. Okay. It will only have three columns: name ID, name, and city. Let us check. So we have two tables. Next, I will insert two names. We have city and name, city and name, city, and then we have, okay. Then we will display rated name. Okay. And then finally, I will insert the city, the name from table name into table salesperson. So selecting from, okay, then display salesperson. Okay, let's try. Okay, okay, I have Eugene. Okay. Sorry, I encountered an error. So let us try it again. Okay. So this is our first select statement. So by inserting our three values, so that's good. Next, our second select statement by inserting our insert statement here. And then lastly, select list contains fewer items than the insert list. So we encountered another error. So what is the reason behind this one? I try to insert three rows, but I only provided two values. So what shall I do? I need to provide three values. I forgot to add new ID. Okay, run again. Okay, so that is now working. Notice in our third select statement, which is table salesperson again, I have inserted the two names found in our table name. Okay, using new ID, I was able to generate a row GU ID. Okay, for this example, we will try to do those examples later on because it's already using joins and where statement, which is kind of advanced to our current lecture. You can also use a common table expression to define the rows to insert. Okay, so when you are using a common table expression, basically we are providing a shortcut to our data. So basically we are renaming our data into a particular table. So let us try to do that example. So using CTE or common table expression. Okay, so I have converted our statement using CTE or common table expression. This will be quite longer. However, with CTE, the good thing about CTE is that you could actually make use of multiple select statements as one table. So basically, in this instance, I have only used one select statement, but you could make this into a complicated statement made out of two or three or more tables, and then it will be converted into or represented into one table. So basically, city is just like a shortcut or a renaming of the columns found inside the as parameter. Okay. In this example, it's just we made it longer because our select statement is only one, but you could make it into a more complicated example. Okay, so let us just arrange the table. So after defining RCTE, this will be callable, or this will be considered as a table, as a representative table that will only exist within your particular query. So notice here that we could execute select and then the column name and then top salesperson. Actually, I can change the column name into this one so that at least you will see the difference. Okay. And then after doing that, let us try to see what will happen or if the output will be the same. Okay. So we have your first table, second table, and this is our third table. City. Why was not that included? Oh, okay. Because I placed null. Uh, huh? City? Then run it again. Okay. Char value as incorrect syntax. Cannot convert a char value to money. Because we're asking for money. That's why I placed null. Okay. Sorry. Do it again. Okay. There you have it. Number two, select clause. So we are finished with the insert statement. Next is the select clause. This clause is used to select and extract data from one or more different tables. So select clause uses statement select followed by the column name separated by comma. If you want to display all the columns, you use asterisk, okay, followed by from keyword, followed by the table name. So we have used the select statement primarily with an asterisk, but if you want, you could use it with one or more columns. So for example, I just want to display the name and the UID. Okay, so that you could see the difference side by side, asterisk with the non-asterisk. Okay, this is the non-asterisk, and then this is the table select statement with asterisk. Okay. Where clause. By inserting this clause in a table, you can select data based on a certain condition. It is helpful if you want to select for an update or entirely delete one or more records in a row or a column based on a condition like a name, birthday, etc. So where clause, you could make use of the following comparison operators when using the where clause. You could make use of equal, greater than equal, less than or equal, like, in, and between. Okay, for comparison operators, we make use of these symbols. So for example, we are to use equal. So for example, we are going to get all the name from table salesperson where, okay, where, okay, for example, I want to get all the sales last year that is equal to null. Okay, okay. Select full name. Sales last year. If there is no record, equal to, equal to. Okay, I'll just use full name instead. I think we cannot use equal for null. It must be a different condition. So I'll just use this one. We'll try this one. So when comparing string, you have to make sure that it is inside a single quote, quote unquote. It is also the same if you are comparing date or date time or time. They must be placed inside a single quote. I will show you later on how we can do that. So let's try to run this one. Okay, so get Mike Orange as full name Mike Orange. Okay, so that is equal. How about greater than? So we'll get the sales should be greater than 21,500. So all the sales that's greater than 21,500. So for numbers, we do not need to put them inside single quote. So again, Mike Orange has sales of greater than 21,500. Okay, if you want to include the actual sales for double checking, we'll place that inside our query. Okay, so here. Next, we have, I think it will be easy for you in using the comparison operator. Another example is the not equal operator. So take note, there are two symbols for the not equal operator. So let us try to use the not equal operator. Get all data that is not equivalent to 21,500 of sales last year. Okay, not equal to 21,500. Okay, so here, why is the null not included? Because we cannot get the value for that because that is not numeric. That is why null will not be included. And also make use of this symbol. But if I change it, this one, so that we could see the difference. Okay, your JSON will be included. Next is the like statement. The like statement can be used for patterns. However, for this example, usually a like statement can be used for string. Usually it's string because they usually form patterns inside their value. For this one, we will just be using like for comparing a string or for finding a string. All the other examples will be on your next lecture. We will have an in-depth look on how we will make use of like. This just to show you how like is used. Okay. Po, po, po. Like, for example, rough gear. Okay, run. And then you have route getter. Next, we have in and between. Okay. In can be used for string, can be used for values. In this example, we'll be getting the values of full name, that is either Rob Kitter or Mike Orange. And we'll also be getting, take note, between, when you say between, the starting and the ending values should be included. So for example, when I say get all the columns that is between 0 and 10, all the values that is 0 and 10 is included. Okay? You might be mistaken that 0 will not be included, only 0.1 up until 9.99999. No, it's not like that. When you use the keyword between, the starting and the ending value is included. Okay? Should have an end so that you can specify the starting and the ending value. So here I will input 60,000. Okay. So let us run the example. Okay. In this example, we have the name, Rob Guitar, Mike Orange. And then in this example, we will get the name and the sales that is between 21.5 and 60,000. So notice 21.5 is included. We also have the end and the or operator. Okay. The end and the or operator, and both conditions should be true in order for the statement to be executed or to return a value, whereas or only one condition should be true. So for example, full name is equals to Ralph Kitter, and so notice the difference between the two. Okay. Why did it both appear? The reason behind that is that when you are using and, both conditions should be true, the left and the right condition. When you're using or, either the left or the right condition should be true in order for the statement to be executed. So if, for example, we use and here, the city is Bay, because there's no city that is Bay only, no execution will be made. We also have the order by clause and the limit or top clause. Order by clause arranges your select statement. So for example, so let me remove this one, select as list from table search person. Then we order it by, so the default ordering is ascending. And then you can specify the arrangement by inputting this for descending or ASC for ascending. You could actually sort by multiple columns and then you could specify the ascending or descending order. Okay, so just arrange by. Limit and top. Okay, let me explain. If you are going to use limit, that is only considered for MySQL. If you are going to use top, that is only for SQL Server. Basically, it returns the number of rows based on the number of limit or top. So for example, in this statement, we return 5 records. If I only want to return the top 3 records, I will say here select top 3 and then column from table source person. So I will only have 3 records. Okay. Update statement. So update statement, you use your update statement if you want to update data, okay, in your table. Take note that if you are going to use update statement, you need to have a condition. So the syntax is update table name followed by the keyword set and then column followed by the value and then condition. You can actually update without using a condition. However, it may lead to error. So you have to take note when you are updating tables. So for example, I want to update all the sales, okay, where, so I will use this condition where, okay, I am updating all the sales that are null to 0. Okay, so that is how you would use update, making sure that you have a where clause, okay, so that you will not encounter any unnecessary error. Okay, you could update multiple rows as long as the condition is true. So we also have here error handling. I will not tackle that anymore. We have here delete statement. So delete statement, this is the most common error encountered by a student when using delete statement. Okay. The syntax for the delete statement is delete from table name. Take note, delete from table name followed by where and then the condition. Do not delete a table without using a where condition. Same as update. The reason behind that is that you could introduce unnecessary errors to your database. Now, usually, you just follow the syntax and then you will have no problem. So delete from, okay, for example, we will be deleting table name. Some students, instead of just using the syntax, okay, I will place a where clause where okay, do not be confused. I'm just using a new syntax so that we will fulfill the where condition for the delete statement. Although I can do this without actually a where statement, but I just want to show you that it's better if you will execute update or delete with our condition. So usually we will just follow the syntax and then there will be no problem. However, some students actually use the syntax delete asterisk from, wherein that will result into an error. There's no delete asterisk command, only delete from. Always remember that. Okay, so in this instance, we are deleting all the name that is not, take note, not null. So for example, I will just use name is null. We will just delete all the name that is null and then we will display the record. Let us see what will happen. Okay, so take note, nothing is deleted. Why? Because all the name has a value. What if I want to delete all the name that has a value? So the reverse of null is not, not, take note, not, and then reverse condition. This is just an example. We will tackle this on your later lecture. No more records. Okay. I would recommend for the purposes of our example to wrap the delete command in a transaction so you don't have to repeatedly insert rows into the example database. Here you'll see the same delete statement. Okay, so this one is an example using transaction. So for example, there's an error encountered, you can just roll back. For example, if we want to do that, this is begin transaction, then roll back. We are placing our command inside the transaction so that in the event of an error, it will just roll back. But anyway, there is no error here, so the transaction will execute smoothly. But for multiple statements requiring multiple transactions, it is advisable to use begin transaction and roll back. Okay, begin transaction, basically we are writing the data temporarily. Okay, in the event that we encounter an error, everything will roll back or return to the start of that transaction. That is the purpose of transaction. We have here all the samples that we have. Error handling, locking behavior. Okay. Note, delete isn't truncate. Use delete to remove one or more rows from a table. Only in special situations such as when you need to reset a table in its initial stage should you use truncate. Okay. For SQL, for MS SQL, if you want to reset the table, you use truncate. The keyword truncate command. Okay. If you are to remove one or more rows, use delete. So truncate is different from delete. So you could also delete using a subquery, meaning a subquery is a query within a query. So this is just for the purpose of um, showing you how you could do that one. But we will have an in-depth look on this on the later modules that we have. Okay. So lastly, we have truncate table. So truncate table, table name is used to reset the table. Okay. It doesn't actually delete the structure of the table. So we have here a review. We have commit, we have select, update, rollback, delete, subquery. And then lastly, using computed columns and aliases. Now, there are times wherein you want to rename your table or you want to rename your column, or your column is derived from another column. In that instance, for example, here, we have sales last year. Okay, so we'll start here. Sales last year is zero. For example, you want to display sales last year, but you want to add 100. What will be the column name of that particular column? The column will be blank. Why? Because basically this is a new column. It's called the computed column, which is a column derived from another column, or a column that has undergone a process. So that is a computed column. Now, if you want this to have a name, you could either use the keyword as followed by the new name. For example, new name. And then it will display new name as the column name. So that is an alias. You could also not include the as keyword. However, I found that as quite confusing. So it's actually better if you put as. Okay. You could also use that one if, for example, you want to um, display a column to another column. You want to add a column to another column. You could do this one. You can use an alias. Okay, so that will be all for this week's lecture.